11:59 or 12 a.m., I would encourage you to do so. Because to take the leap that automatically on 2 days a week for an additional 2 hours, all of a sudden you're going to have a problem, and you haven't been having a problem up until midnight, I think is a leap with all due respect. You're expecting a problem that might not happen.
I'm not expecting. This is a very common type of thing, particularly 2 o'clock, meaning that's the end. That doesn't mean everybody leaves the very second 2 o'clock. And so often, people who imbibe are there longer, and there could be problems.
You're right.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think your point's well taken. I think at the same time, though, we have to play devil's advocate, and that is, I know the town of Palm Beach recently went through this with their downtown restaurant and food outlets, and I think a lot of what we're talking about right now is no more than speculative, and I think at that point, I don't see the chief here, but to shed some light on this in terms of, from a hard data standpoint, what is trending analysis that ultimately lays out what is the overall complaint ratio from a time standpoint? I mean, does it spike up as we move into the late evening hours? Does it trend down? Is it non-existent? I mean, I don't know the answer. I'm simply saying, if we base a decision on solely on our own assumptions, is that a prudent way to go about doing it?
Well, Councilmember Merbler, the only thing I would say, the only data we do have is up until midnight for a lot of years, and there hasn't been a problem. Vice Mayor Clayman, I'm not saying that it's a completely unreasonable proposition you're making, but just to base a denial on the fact that something might happen, I don't think would be an appropriate basis. There's just as many people who might want to come and sit down and have a cigar and a brandy and not make any noise from midnight to 2, as there might be people wanting to make excessive noise and dancing, to use your analogy. To deny this use just on the possibility that might be happening without any basis for that. You certainly would have, and your town officials would have resource, or would have ability to deal with that if that were happening. If indeed it happens, there would be a way to deal with that. But to deny the use outright, on the possibility that might happen, we would think would be fundamentally unfair.
Eric, I just want to state this whole council came back from Hollywood at the Diplomat Hotel. I'll wait till you finish. The council just came back from the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood, and I mean, I stayed up a little late at times also, but they had also an establishment there. The bar was there. It was open until probably 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a lot of mayors, commissioners, council people enjoying themselves, having a drink, and it's the norm today. And there are places around where they are that has residential also. And another point, in the town of Palm Beach, there's a place called Kachina. It's actually owned by a lady council member and her husband, and that place goes to the wee hours. And they clear that place out, and they clear the tables away, and they dance all night. And they have a police officer there. Sometimes they've had a fire officer there. They hire these people on a pay where the town actually gets the money from the establishment, and then the officers are paid a certain amount of money. And they're in full uniform. And many times I've been in Kachinas at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the people live upstairs and to the right and to the left of them, and that's residential. You have one of the biggest hotels, I think it's called the Biltmore, right around the corner, and then you have a few other hotels and residential condominiums right near the area. So you're correct in saying that. I mean, if it's handled properly, we do have the resources here in town. We have the police officers. We have the fire rescue. If there was going to be a problem, I'm sure it could be handled.
Mayor, I think I would agree with you, and I would want to point out additionally, I think you mentioned a couple of establishments. I think we even think of the ones that are right in the neighborhood, whether it be the Ritz, whether it be the Employ, whether it be the Four Seasons. Residential places are nearby in all of those. That's just the way it is up and down this road. And they handle it. And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be handled here. And I just would not want the council to just, you know, reject it out of hand without even, you know, seeing if there's going to be a problem.
Again, sir, comparing a lot of these restaurants, they're enclosed areas. This would be an outside area quite a bit because it's right around the pool area and people do live in that area. The amount of room inside the restaurant is limited. They would have to use the outside. And this is where I feel 2 o'clock in the morning is much too late to disturb people in the surrounding areas and very close surrounding areas.
I would just, Vice Mayor Clayman, I would just point out there has not been a problem in disturbing people at 12 o'clock.
Not till 2 o'clock.
You are right, and you are of the belief, and you're entitled to your position, your opinion, that all of a sudden there's going to be a problem in those 2 hours. And I would submit to you, there's no evidence of that. There's nothing to support that. Many establishments do it, and it is tolerated and even well accepted. So to automatically assume that that is going to be a problem is where I really lose you on that. I just don't see how you can automatically say that something is going to happen from 12 to 2 every Friday and Saturday that hasn't been happening between 11:30 and 12 o'clock. I'm unaware of some type of data that would suggest that happens.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. Good. I was just going to mention to everyone that this is a legislative act. You're changing your code. There aren't standards here, but basically it's how you feel about whatever you're being requested on this particular item. So we're not looking at specific standards other than how your feeling is just as valid as anyone else's feeling on this. The other thing, I have talked to Mr. Cristo, and we've agreed to disagree. I think not only should both Councilmember Lillybeck and Jordan vote on this, I think they're required to under 286. I think that basically there is no financial gain or loss as a result of this vote, and I think that is the standard under the ethics chapter, and it's the standard under case law. So if there's no financial gain or loss, I don't think there's any reason not to vote, and also I think you're required to under 286. So that's where I stand on that.
I was just going to say,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no.
I was just going to ask for a recommendation from our town manager. Is that called putting someone on the spot? But he's good.
Well, I mean, I like what Brad said, I mean, this is a policy issue. It initially came to myself because of the way the code was written, but it's very clear in my mind that the code is written for a special event type situation. For example, New Year's Eve. You know, it's not uncommon for people to have a party or something going on, and hours be extended for a couple of extra hours in that situation. And I think the code clearly says that. Obviously, the issue dealing here is a legislative matter, and as Brad said, it's how you all feel about it. So that's why, what they originally talked about in the code, I felt was not applicable. It really needed to come before the council. I really don't have a recommendation on your ultimate decision.
Can I say, I was just going to request, I think, purely everything going forward from here is each of our own assumptions. And I mean, we have an understanding, of course, of what the code ultimately reads, but I think that being said, it also, it's something I think that merits consideration based on the facts and not necessarily knee-jerk, response from us purely based on speculation. And in saying that, as I alluded to earlier, perhaps going forward with something from the chief that ultimately lays out, and I don't know what the time frame might be, a 12-month snapshot ultimately detailing what trending looks like for complaints. I don't know. But that would be my suggestion.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Brad again, read what the exceptions could be under our current code.
It's section 1456, and it talks about the midnight hour, and then it says, however, upon application to the town administrator, the time of closing may be extended on a specific date until 2 a.m. Each such application for an extension of the closing time shall indicate the purpose for which such extension is desired, and any other information which the town administrator may find to be reasonably necessary to determination of such request. In determining whether to grant such an extension of the closing hours, the town administrator shall consider the number of extension requests previously granted to the applicant within the same 12-month period, whether the extension request is for a special event or holiday, the availability of town personnel whose presence on duty may be required as a result of the extension request, and by the necessity to protect the general public. Prior to the denial of any application for extension of hours of closing as provided by this section, the applicant shall be given an opportunity to be heard upon reasonable notice.
Thank you, Brad. I would not be against Christmas, New Year's, July 4th, Labor Day, special events, as just was designated. I would not be against allowing that until 2 o'clock, and this would be a very good test. Could everything be kept in order? Were there any problems? Did the police have to be called, which a policeman should be on duty anyway? But I would not be against the special days, but not every Friday and Saturday.
Vice Mayor Clayman, what our response to that would be is, I think the test is reality as opposed to speculation. The true test would be for you to